Hello and welcome back to another episode of Wealth, Purpose, Peace. I'm Jonathan Hall.
Brian Grant.
And we are financial advisors with Warburton Capital.
Yes, sir.
Our goal with this podcast is to walk through questions that we get from clients all the time. And I think we have an interesting one today. I'm excited to get your take on it, Brian.
Yeah, it's a simple question, but like most of the questions we get asked, there's questions behind the question. I think there's plenty of that with this one. So this one is, how much cash should I have in the bank? And we get asked that more than you'd think. So yeah, we'll want to walk through it. We'll talk about the practical side. Then we'll kind of dive in again to what are people really talking about when they ask that question? What are they thinking through? So where do we start? I mean,
well, like most things, I think the answer to this question is uniquely personal for everyone.
Sure.
But there is a textbook answer that we can start with. I think we found that clients often deviate from that more often than not.
Sure.
But let's start there.
Yeah.
So, Brian, what's the textbook answer? I'll put you on the spot. What's the textbook answer on how much money someone should have in cash?
Sure. Yeah. So aside from kind of daily operating cash, right? What's in your checking account that you know you need to spend every month? The textbook answer is to have something like 3 to 6 months worth of that spending numbers. Goes back to spending we talked about in our last episode, but 3 to 6 months of your monthly spend in cash in a high yield savings account or something as an emergency fund. And where you fall on that 3 to 6 month spectrum, again, from a textbook perspective, goes back to what your household looks like. If you have a single income household, you want to err more towards that 6 month side of things. If you're married and you both work and both bring in a pretty similar income, you might be able to lean more towards that 3 month side. So that's the textbook answer. Again, things deviate from that all the time for different reasons.
Well, and we've seen clients have cash in the bank for a variety of purposes. I think the three most common, number one is emergency fund, like we talked about.
Right.
The second one is because they didn't know what else to do with it. Maybe you're a business owner and you've been taking distributions from the business and things are starting to go really well. And you've been accumulating cash over the past few months. And you open up your checking account and all of a sudden you've got 200 grand. What do I do with that? That's, I think, almost as paralyzing in some ways as not having enough cash in the bank.
Right.
And then sometimes people just have a number in mind that they want, some number that helps them sleep well at night.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's fine, right? If because that is for a purpose. My problem is when it's not for a purpose, when it's just idle cash sitting there for no reason. That's when I think you're sacrificing returns without a purpose. So even if the purpose is simply, that's what makes me feel good, and I understand that I could earn more if it were in bonds, even let alone in equities for long-term growth. But I feel better when I log in and see 50 grand or whatever the number. That's okay. But just arrive there on purpose. So yeah, there are going to be, particularly if you own a business, there's often liquidity events or distributions change and things start going well. Things are going to happen where maybe it piles up on you for a little bit, but find somebody who you can work with to help you think through, okay, what do I need for short-term goals? What can I do with the rest of it for long-term goals? And
even folks that are, executives working in a publicly traded company and they're getting stock options or grants and they're trying to think through when do I execute. And then we figured that out, but now they've got a bunch of cash. What do we do with that?
Right.
I like how you said it. We have to have a purpose for these decisions that we're making. Back to the title of the podcast, Wealth, Purpose, Peace. We have our wealth. We've determined the purpose behind the wealth, what we want to do with it.
Right.
And ultimately that clarity is what ends up bringing peace. I think people think cash is not that stressful because you don't see it go up and down like you do in the stock market.
Right.
But I think sometimes cash can be kind of stressful.
Yeah, well, particularly cash flow, right? The timing of cash flows. So we have several clients who, maybe they get paid something monthly, but the majority of their income comes quarterly from bonuses or distributions or sales targets, and so their cash flow planning can get kind of lumpy and strange on them. It's always solvable, right? But it's not always as intuitive when you don't have the same amount hit every month. So that's one thing. So, I mean, we talk about the textbook answer. Let's talk a little bit about how to think through and look at your situation and say, how do I know if I have too little? How do I know if I have too much? I think too much is easy, right? If you have over that 3 to 6 month benchmark plus what's in your checking for operating cash, if you have over that mark for no reason, you probably have too much, right? If it's there because you have a short-term goal in 3 to 6 months.
Want to upgrade the house.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever the case, you need a new car. You're going to put a new fence in it. Whatever the thing is, then that's fine. Again, if the purpose is just, I feel better when I see that, okay.
That's still a purpose.
It's still a purpose, but have a reason. So that's too much. I think if you have too little, you might know that if you're constantly building up a credit card balance, that's a real good indicator. If you're always having to shuffle money around between accounts or pull money from your brokerage to cover shortfalls, or if you just feel stressed, again, I mean, even if it always works out, but you're cutting it down to where there's almost nothing left in that checking account every month, maybe you have too little. Maybe you need to have a little bit of a buffer. And we see people fall at both ends of the spectrum. I think part of that comes back to just personal risk tolerance. Like your own life's experiences up to this point can dictate. If you've had a good example of this, where if you have 3, 4, 5 things go wrong in a year, you're like, I might need more cash.
We had one of those perfect storm years where, you got to replace the air conditioner, and this happens, and then there's the car repair, and then all of a sudden your 3 to 6 months of safety fund really gets dwindled down. And actually, I think that'd be fun to share, is kind of what we do with our own cash flow. In my case, after that experience and my safety fund really got dwindled down, I tend to have a higher risk tolerance. I tend not to keep too much in cash personally. But once we did that, I looked at my cash holdings and I thought, this isn't quite where I want it to be.
Right.
So I had to implement a plan and think through, how can I start saving some cash back up to bring that piece back? Just like you said, a lot of times, like, financial planning's less here and more here. This doesn't feel like enough cash, even though I know I have a big risk tolerance. I know I have access to cash if I need it. I have my brokerage. But man, it'd feel nice to have, a little bit more in the bank.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's fine to say, I have some money in the brokerage in stocks when the stock market's doing well, right? But what if we're in the middle of a downturn and you need a new AC or a new heat and you don't have enough cash? I mean, you're not going to want to sell stocks at a loss. You don't want to have to. You don't want to find yourself in that place. So that can help perform it. What do I do?
Dying to know.
Yeah. The people are dying to know. I fall somewhat more towards that textbook answer. I'm a rule follower. I like to play by the rules.
Yes.
So sort of, though, right? I mean, I don't keep a ton in the bank. I have a budget, and so I keep what I know I'm going to need for a month, plus like 10 to 20% of a buffer on top of that budget, just to make sure. There's weird timing of bills, or if something gets auto drafted, I don't want to have an overdraft for some silly reason. So I keep a little buffer. And then I keep more of the emergency fund in money market funds and really short-term, high credit quality bond funds in my brokerage account.
So that's a great point. And I want to pick up on it really quick, because, we've talked about how much cash should I have in the bank. But once we have that number, where should it sit?
Right.
I think that's a big question, because number one, in my mind, is not in your checking account.
No.
Right? That's a little bit riskier because you have your debit card. There's a little less protection than maybe in a credit card type of situation. So you open yourself up to more fraud potential if you have it all in a checking account. So I think number one is at least a savings account.
I think that's a great point. If you have a debit card tied to that bank account, don't keep a ton in there. I mean, keep enough that you can pay your bills if that's what you pay your bills out of. But particularly if you carry that debit card around with you, I think that's a really smart point, just from a security perspective. I know plenty of people, Dave Ramsey will hate this. I know plenty of people who use credit cards just for the liability protection, because you have a limited loss there if it's stolen. It's 40 or 50 bucks, whatever it is. They pay it off every month. They don't care about the points. It's more, I want to make sure that from a security standpoint, I'm safe. But even if you're not that person, at least have it in a savings account. For me, I just looked at it and it's like, I haven't yet had an experience in life where there was a huge emergency fund need that I couldn't wait 48 hours for. Right? I mean, I'd be pretty concerned if there was an emergency and someone's like, I need money now. You might be getting a scam attempt. So for me to have it in my brokerage account, everything I have it in is highly liquid. I can place a trade. It settles the next day, and it's in my bank the day after that. That I'm good with that. I've never had that be a problem. And so if I can earn a little bit more, then to me, that's worth it. I sleep just fine.
So a couple quick practical things. Back to the original question, how much? I think if you have zero in cash, that might not be enough.
Not enough.
Let's shoot for 1,000. Even with the 3 to 6 month target, I think a minimum of 10,000, unless your spending is just really, really low, which congratulations. You know, if that's you, you're very prudent.
How you did it.
You know, but at least 10,000. Most sequences of emergencies aren't going to cost more than 10. They might occasionally look at your deductibles for your home, your auto, your health insurance. That's one way to think through it. And then beyond that, the 3 to 6 month number.
Well, and I think to go back to something you mentioned earlier was access to cash. If you're going to have below that emergency fund number, I would feel better about it if you're going to have access to cash. Maybe you have a revolving line of credit at the bank, or you have a HELOC, or things you don't want to tap, but are there if it's truly an emergency. If you lose your job, you're going to have a little bit of a time where you don't have an income until you find another job. Hopefully that's brief, but the bills keep coming and you want to keep the lights on. So at least have access to cash if you're going to fall below that number. But I agree. I like to start with that $10,000 number is a great starting target. There's not a ton of emergencies that are above that. There's some. There's not a ton. So it's a good target.
Well, and to get to the question behind the question, I think when people are opening up their bank account and they look at their cash balance, they're trying to figure out, I think one of two things. Am I going to be okay in the event of an emergency? Right? Or is my money working as hard for me as it could be?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's where my mind goes. I think most people, it's how do I strike the perfect balance between the two? Right? Like I want to have enough that I'm good for the short-term needs and I'm safe and that makes me feel okay, but also that I'm not sacrificing for return for no reason. So that's why thinking through this is important. And we're talking about smaller dollar amounts. Maybe it doesn't make a huge difference, but if you just make a habit of letting cash pile up on you for no reason throughout your whole working career, that makes a big difference from a compounded return perspective. And so just to all of these things, it's arrive at things with a purpose, develop a plan, work with someone who can help you develop a plan that's purposeful if you need to. I think it helps everyone. But get somewhere on purpose and for a purpose. So
a practical takeaway, I think, is set a goal. Set a goal for that savings account number. And if the goal is lower than the money that you have in it, you need to figure out a plan for the rest of the money. So plan brings peace.
Well, and to make it actionable, we go back to what we said at the start and what we talked about last episode is know what you spend. Right? I mean, that spending number, your 3 to 6 month number is different than my 3 to 6 month number. So even if we want to go with the textbook answer, you got to know what you spend. And we don't mean just the mortgage or the electric bills, like every month, all in what goes out, and figure that number out. That's crucial for so many different things. It was important when we talked about retirement planning last episode. It's important in talking about how much cash you'd have at the bank. Figure out your spending, and then you can solve for that 3 to 6 month number and know if you're there or above it or below it. But then you can do what you said, whether you're above it or below it, make a plan of how to correct it. So I think the other thing is plan for short-term goals, right? If you know, okay, there's in 6 months, I have this big cash outlay, or in a year, I have this big cash outlay. Well, the timing of those cash needs might dictate where you want it to sit. You might be fine leaving it in your savings account and earning whatever it happens to earn if that goes in 3 to 6 months. If it's 12 to 18 months away, you still might not want to take stock market risk, but you might be able to put it in a treasury that matures in an appropriate time before that need is and earn a little bit more. These are just like simple things that we do all the time for people and help with their cash management. And it adds a lot of value in a really simple way. So I think another thing, know the extra amount you need from an individual psychology perspective to feel better, to breathe easier. That's important too. You're not a text. You're not a person in a word problem on a test. You're a real person, and you have feelings and emotions, and your life's led you to this point, and that's all okay. But figure out if there's a number beyond these textbook answers that you need to see on that screen to just feel okay about things. And again, that's okay if it's for that purpose.
Yeah, great food for thought, Brian. And I think, like we always say in working with clients, our wealth needs to have a purpose. And that purpose will ultimately lead us to peace. On this topic of cash and how much to have, I think we've kind of charted out a way to find some peace. Working with a professional can help as well.
For sure.
All right. Well, thank you for joining on this episode. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon.